The Juvenile Detention Center Board meeting for Monday, May 13th, 2024 will come to order. Sheila, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Chris Johnson. Dr. Anita Herron. Superintendent William Cope.
Here.
Dr. Michael McDonald.
Here.
Ms. Claire Maxwell.
Here.
Judge Steve Daniel.
Here.
Mayor Joe Carr.
Here. Thank you, Sheila. Before we move on, I'm sure that the board and the community has heard the recent tragic incident of last week during the storm regarding Dr. Sullivan's son, Asher. I have asked Claire, Vice Chair Claire Maxwell, who serves on the Board of Education, if she will just lead us in a moment of prayer. Claire?
Please bow your heads. Dear Lord, O wonderful Lord and mighty Savior, we come to you today with heavy hearts. A family is hurting as their son is severely injured from the storms of last week and sitting in a hospital room fighting for his life. We ask you to comfort this family and hold them in our hearts. It is your name that all is possible, and I know that you can and you will make sure that the family gets what they need. Please guide our hearts and our minds to always do what's pleasing in your sight. In your name that we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Ms. Maxwell. Vice Chair Judge Daniel, do you have an opportunity to review the minutes of the previous meeting?
I have reviewed those minutes, and this morning as I was looking at the agenda, it brought to mind something that I sort of suggested when the drafts were submitted, and that is this. On the data report, it says that we had a discussion, and that discussion is not elaborated on, but I think the minutes should reflect that a discussion was held concerning whether the charges of domestic assault and vandalism up to $1,000 comply with the provisions of TCA 37-1-114 to justify our detention of this individual from a different county. This issue is my recollection, was to be referred to the county attorney as to whether or not we can rely on the determination of an out-of-county judge on this issue to justify our detention. And I would seek to have those comments a part of the minutes.
That is a formal motion to amend the minutes. We would need a second.
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor of amending the minutes per the Vice Chair's request say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Judge Daniel, those comments will be reflected in the minutes, and they will. Now we need a motion to accept the minutes as amended. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor of accepting the minutes as amended say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. The minutes will be corrected. Thank you, Vice Chairman Daniels. So we do not have public comments. Thank you, Sheila. We do not have public comments. Ms. Duke, open positions, please, ma'am.
We do have
So, Lynn, we cannot hear you. Is your mic on?
It is now. I'm sorry.
Do you mind repeating the report, please, ma'am? Thank you.
Yes. So we do not have any open positions as of today's date. We do have a one employee that is out on FMLA leave, and we have 3 employees that are out on intermittent FMLA. And we have no one that's currently out on a leave of absence.
Any questions for Ms. Duke regarding the open positions? Seeing none, and without objection, we'll accept. Item number 5, the data report. Please, ma'am.
So on your table, you have this month's data report. We currently have a population of 13, 6 of those being youth are charged with in Rutherford County, and then we additionally have 4 from Montgomery and 1 each from Haywood, Houston, and Sumner.
Does that conclude that part of your report?
Yes, it does.
Any questions for Ms. Duke on the data report? Vice Chair Daniel, you're recognized.
I wanted to ask this question because I've been asked by members of the public about this, Ms. Duke. How many other individuals generally in a month, on average, would you have that come in and go back out that are brought in and processed but not lodged? Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. Today, last month, we're going to potentially, if you choose to, we can talk about this during the quarterly reports, but that is information that I take monthly to the Public Safety Committee and is included this month in your quarterly reports review. I should have brought that last month, but with the budget information that we spoke about, I just completely forgot. And so monthly, when I take my report to the Public Safety Committee, there are a couple of, hang on, let me clear this up, a couple of lines that might be of interest. One would be the Rutherford County released with a court date. And as an example, in February, which is just the one that I had pulled up, we had 36 young people that came in and were processed, given a court date, and were released to their parent or legal guardian, and were not booked in or detained in the facility.
Would that be a reflection of about what the average is?
It looks like, just as I'm looking at this quickly, there's approximately 30 a month so far in the month or in the year 2024. And those are, just as a reminder, not only do I bring this quarterly, but this information is available on the Rutherford County websites and can be looked at, as I understand it, by anybody that chooses to do so.
Judge Daniel, if you could grab your mic if you had something to opine. Thank you.
I just say, this is here on this machine, I'm sure, but I've pushed the wrong button as usual.
I have the same challenges, sir, so fear not. Any other questions for Ms. Duke regarding the data report or the technology we use to access the data report? Seeing none, we'll accept without objection. We're now to the Educational Services Report, item 6.
So this is for April. It's the information that you are used to seeing. This information, just so that you also know, is also something that we share with Public Safety monthly. And just a brief explanation of what some of these items are is in the bottom box, and it explains what our Edgenuity program is.
Does that conclude your report?
Yes, it does. I'm sorry.
Quite all right. I just don't want to talk over top of you. Any questions or comments from Ms. Duke regarding the Education Services Report? Seeing none, if there is no objection, we'll accept and move to item 7, the MOU between Rutherford County Board of Education and the RCJDC for basic educational services. Are you doing that as well, Ms. Duke?
I am.
Thank you.
So every year, the Board of Education does a MOU or a Memorandum of Understanding with the Rutherford County Juvenile Detention Center for two different types of education. This first MOU that we're discussing is for basic educational services. This is the same contract with the same language that has already been reviewed by our attorney and the director of schools, and is presented today for your acceptance and approval. It's something that the educational staff in our facility provide to the youth detained. And I guess I can answer any other questions you have about that.
To be clear, so you're bringing this MOU before the board for acceptance, is that correct?
Yes, and then I do have to sync this through the other Rutherford County committee process as well.
So you need an acceptable MOU from this board in relation to the Rutherford County Board of Education before proceeding to the appropriate standing committees, is that correct?
That is correct.
Any questions for Ms. Duke regarding the proposed MOU between the Rutherford County Board of Education and the Juvenile Detention Center Board? And I will gladly give you guys a minute to review if you need it. But what we will need is we will need a motion and a second, and then probably a roll call vote. Ms. Maxwell, have you had an opportunity to review it?
Yes.
And as the representative on the Rutherford County School Board, do you find everything satisfactory? We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, without objection, we will call the roll. Sheila, if you'll call the roll, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Motion passes. Item 8, MOU between Rutherford County Board of Education, RJDC, for supplemental education services.
So this would be the exact same explanation, except for that this is for supplemental educational services. And so both of these, just so you kind of get the big picture, if you will look back on your educational report, you will see English and math are very heavy on the educational services, and that's part of the basic educational services that we have an agreement to provide. And then additionally, when it comes to supplemental, that's where we'll do the history, economics, statistics, and other items that are just done throughout the year. And those would be considered supplemental educational services. So this MOU has also been approved by the Board of Education, Director of Schools, and the county attorney has approved the language of the contract, and it is not different from years past.
Any questions for Ms. Duke regarding the supplemental education services? If it please, I have a question, Lynn.
Yes.
So we have a number of students out of county who are in our juvenile correction facility, how are those students treated? And maybe, Claire, you could answer this question. How are those students and their curriculum treated as it relates to the MOU that we have with the Rutherford County system, but maybe not as it relates to educational services with other counties? So my question is this. Are those young people in detention who are enrolled in another county, are they now enrolled by extension in the Rutherford County system because they're here in Rutherford County?
The easy and short answer is yes. Wherever the facility is located, that Board of Education is required to pick up their educational needs, and we do so. But the platform that we use is statewide, so they're getting exactly what they need from their actual home schools.
But it is I think you know where I'm going. Is it the financial responsibility of Rutherford County to educate those children who are outside the county?
It is.
Does Rutherford County, can you, Claire, as a member of the board, can you tell us, does Rutherford County receive reimbursement for educating a child who lives outside the county but for whatever reason is now a resident of the Juvenile Detention Center receiving our educational services?
I will check to make sure that is certainty of that, but I will assure you that if we are educating them, we want to make sure that we're getting compensated for that financially.
Right, and I just don't know the answer to that
and,
question.
you know,
It
that's a
occurred
good
to me as I
question.
saw this.
I know that we are obligated to educate them, so I knew the answer
knew
to
that.
that. But I will have to do some checking to make sure that that is caught up in everything was with TISA now, and make sure that we are getting compensated for that, because that's a question I would like to think we are.
I would too, but I haven't heard it asked, and so I thought, it just occurred to me. Do you mind kind of looking into that at all?
No, I don't mind doing that at all. I will check into that.
I would really appreciate it, and I think the board would too.
Yes.
Yes, Vice Chair Daniel.
Does our contracts with these counties that provide these out-of-county students make any provision about that?
That I do not know. That is the other part to this that I want to find. Lynn, can you answer that?
The contracts do not specifically mention education, but I can also report that our Garland Henley, who spoke the other night and did a great job talking about what he and his team do for our department, the majority of his salary is funded by grant money through the state.
Okay.
And it is based on population, and that population includes in and out of county students.
Okay. Just to expand this conversation a little bit further, can you tell me if critical health services are required? How is that also dealt with?
So the
Acute health services.
right. Additionally, there are minimum standards that we fall under as a detention facility that are guided by the state. And providing education and health care are in those minimum standards. The way that we handle out-of-county medical services is as follows. If it is something that can be handled with over-the-counter medication, we do that as part of our normal services. If it requires a doctor's appointment or ER trip, that county will come, collect their child, take their child to their chosen doctor's appointment or ER, and the family who is the legal guardian of the child, because he or she is still a minor, are still responsible for taking care of the payment for those kids. Now, we do have a contract with Rudd Medical to do the portion of medical care that is required because they are detainees with us on a 24-hour basis, such as physical when they arrive, their medication disbursement, those type things, sick call. But that's just part of our medical contract for basic medical needs.
Okay. Vice Chair Daniel, you're recognized.
On one of our residents, he's from he or she is from Haywood County, so I'm sure that if there was emergency care, we wouldn't expect them to drive them to Brownsville.
No, the way that we handle an urgent emergency is that we will take them to the ER, and then when and if necessary, the other county or that law enforcement agency will meet us there. And the way that we handle it is if the child is still got a parent or legal guardian involved in their lives, then they can also meet at the ER because they'll have we have basic medical information as far as allergies and medications, but parents generally want to be there when their children are being seen by medical professionals, so they're welcome there as well.
Dr. Herron, you're recognized.
So under your daily rates, would that not include is it just for their room and board and stuff? Would it not include their educational services? But then the other question is, under your supplemental education, under 504 plan, would that not cover them because they're incarcerated at this point?
So the way that the contract, and I don't have one, well, yeah, I do. The way that the contracts read is it's pretty clear what the other counties would be responsible for and what Rutherford County is responsible for. But the contract, the daily bed rate that is currently $175 in July is going to $200, does cover. It doesn't cover everything, but it does cover room and board, and we're required to provide medical services, like we spoke about, the basic needs or whatever. If we were to individually bill that out, it would be more than $200, I would suspect, but that's not the way that it was originally set up, and it's not something that has been discussed moving forward.
What I'm assuming is that I think under 504, that I think that they would be able to fall under that because of the Title I monies, but they should be able to. And I'm just wondering, maybe that's why you don't really charge for that tuition?
You're talking about like TennCare picking them up?
No, so under IDAA, and so under your supplemental services, 504 falls under pregnant girls and even when they're in high school, so they got a broken leg, they can't go. So the 504 plan covers that. So I'm wondering, I think it covers them when they're incarcerated as well. I'm not really sure, but I think that may cover them. So because you have those same funds under the state, it should be able to cover them. But I can find, or Claire can find that out. But yeah, I'm just wondering if that 504 and those funds would be able to cover them under supplemental services versus trying to bill a county for.
We don't bill the county. The parents' information and their address is, even if we take them, we have obviously their parents' information and their parents' home address. That's the responsible party's information that we give when we go to the emergency room if it's something that we have to address and the other county meets us there. I don't think that's.
Ms. Maxwell, if you could use your mic, please. Thank you. Ms. Maxwell, you're recognized.
That's a good question. But I do know that the legislature passed a rule now that if they are an adjoining county, that they're treated differently. Now, granted, Brownsville, if we're talking about that one kid from Haywood County, that's kind of far, but I think that would we could probably get that back with TISA. It would, yeah, that's where I think that we could recoup some of that for educating. That would just go with our educational count. We need to make sure that those kids that are in the juvenile detention center that we are educating are counted when we turn in our numbers, because everything is based on the numbers from the following year. So even though we've got 1,500 new kids that have come in since August, Well, we're not getting money for them until next year. So I would say that any child in our care that we're educating, we should be able to count regarding TISA.
So just to muddy it even further, my employee who is a part of the grant, he does work very closely with the Board of Education, and he gives them multiple data points monthly, and I'm not, just because I'm not in that line, I'm not so sure that that's not already happening, but I can find out. His contact at the Board of Education is probably the person who is handling all that when he reports to her what our population is and who's being served. But it is something that I can find out for sure.
Ms. Maxwell?
Well, right now, Kay Martin has stepped in for the deputy director, and so I was going to go ask her as well. I don't know if that's who your person is, but she's our deputy director, and thank God we did do that, because these are some good questions that I guess I just assumed that we're taken care of, but if they're not, this is something that slipped through the cracks, and we'll have to make sure this does.
I suspect it is being taken care of, but I think the board deserves to know for certainty that it is, and that
Yes.
the communication between the board, this board, and the Board of Education and the staff at the Rutherford County School Board is handling that appropriately. So
Yeah.
it's just a little follow-up.
I will check with our deputy director, Ms. Kay Martin. I will
That'd be
do that.
perfect. Thank you, Claire. Any other questions regarding item 8, the MOU between the Rutherford County Board of Education and the Rutherford County Juvenile Detention Center? If not, the chair will entertain a motion for a roll call vote.
Motion to approve?
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none without objection, Sheila, will you call the roll, please?
Dr. Anita Herron. Superintendent William Cope.
Yes.
Dr. Michael McDonald. Yes. Ms. Claire Maxwell.
Yes.
Judge Steve Daniel.
Yes.
Mayor Joe Carr.
Yes. Motion passes. Item 9, quarterly reports review.
So on your iPad, you will see February 2024, January 2024, and March 2024. Those are going to be the reports that go to the standing committees that we report to, beginning with public safety. And I can pull those up and answer any questions from those that you may have.
Vice Chair Daniel, you're recognized.
Okay, I've gotten the report up now. I appreciate the help from the staff. So on this report, we show that year-to-date, we've billed for these services as far as out-of-county residents, $269,850, and we've received $267,225. Is that right?
Which month are you looking at?
I'm looking at the March. It goes down across the line. I assume it says bill year-to-date, receive year-to-date, and this is a yearly activity report, or am I on the wrong report?
So just to clarify, you're looking at the March 2024
Yes.
yearly activity report, and your question was about what we have billed and received year-to-date?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, those are the daily rates that we are billing for out-of-county youth that stay with our facility.
Right, that's what I'm asking. Some of them are at 200 a day. No.
No,
175.
everybody that is currently contracted with us is still at 175.
Okay.
Everybody that has signed the new contracts that we're beginning to bring this month, I still have some that are in the process of trying to figure out what line to sign and get it back to us, will come in months to come that we'll discuss. But everybody that is contracting with us as of July 1st is going to be a $200 bed.
July 1st of this year.
That's correct.
Okay. But when the county is going through the budget process, this is the number they look at as what that they've received as an offset for the expenses of the detention center.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And there is no, for these young people who come in and go back out, there's no assessed cost to them.
No, sir.
Any further questions regarding the quarterly reports? Seeing none, and if there's no objection, we'll accept. We'll go to item 10, which has already been referenced in the quarterly reports review. It's the new daily rate for detention bed contracts. Ms. Duke, I believe this will require an action on the part of the board. Is that correct?
Yes, and further standing committees as well.
Correct.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so if you will present, please, ma'am.
All right, so in front of you, I have individually entered alphabetically from Cannon County through Weakley County, which I believe is 14. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yes, 14 individual contracts with the counties listed. The contracts are for the new $200 daily rate, have the signatures from the counties that are referenced. In the event that they go through this committee and our standing committees, then we will also sign them and send them back, and we'll have established at this point 14 contracts with these counties for the $200 daily rate. I have some counties that I have not received all of their paperwork yet, but I didn't want to wait because I at least wanted these to get on record at the new rate, ready to go July 1st.
And so this is for the contract period that coincides with our fiscal year, July 1 through June 30, 2024 to 2025?
These contracts are indefinite until we change something or remove the county from an approved list, or that county chooses to no longer contract with us.
I think that may present a small, is that how it's historically been done?
Yes, sir.
I need to check with legal, but I believe the county, Judge Daniel, I think there's a time limit that the county can engage in a contract. We can't engage in one in perpetuity. But Judge Daniel, you're smarter than I am.
Well, I question that comment, but I would suggest that we check with legal, and one of the things that I would think would need to be in those contracts would be the issue about what I raised earlier about whether an out-of-county judge sends someone here to be detained that doesn't meet the criteria, and what is our rights or responsibilities in that.
So I have spoken to Nick about that, and I have communicated to our county attorney, and he is looking into this matter. And as the chairman, when I spoke to Mr. Christensen, he indicated he would get back to me regarding the question posed. Because of its sensitive nature, it is important that all of us be cognizant of that. So he is still working and researching that, Judge Daniel. Let me assure you that is an important question that we want to answer correctly. But because of the nature of the question, it is sensitive, so I need to be careful. I'm sure you understand. So.
I can only, read what Nick Christensen included as the last sentence on the contract that he changed the wording on, and it says, "This contract shall take effect on July 1st, 2024. The contract expresses the entire agreement between the parties and shall remain in effect until terminated at the request of either or both parties."
So I would suggest, with regard to my question about a contract being in existence in perpetuity, I'm trying to recall, but we had a similar discussion about an unrelated matter several months ago where we couldn't do that. I guess what I want to do is I don't want I don't want to hold the approval of this up in this particular chamber if I'm incorrect and unnecessarily delay it. What I request is that the board approve the contract, provided that Nick Christensen understands that it's an accurate contract in that regard and with regard to the interests of the vice chair. So if we can do that, I would appreciate it. But I do want to move this on without delay, but at the same time, if we need to bring it back here, we absolutely will. Okay? Are you okay with that, Ms. Duke?
Yes, I am.
Yes,
So
sir.
the motion that would need to be made is to approve the contract subject to legal review as to its perpetuality and as to the issue that has been raised concerning certain charges.
That it would be a correct motion.
I so move.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? Seeing none, Sheila, will you call the roll, please, ma'am?
Yes.
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 Yes. Motion passes. Item 11 on our calendar, other business.
I didn't specifically write it down, but Judge Daniel reminded me that we were going to consider moving to room 205. So that might be something that we should discuss.
Yeah, thank you, Lynn. I was going to bring that up. I brought that up at the last meeting for the board to consider. The chair will exercise the wishes of the board. It's not a decision we have to make now or even but I want to make it by June because maybe if we do decide to move to 205, I would like to coincide probably with the beginning of the fiscal year beginning July, but at the same time, it's just a suggestion. Has the board thought about, the individual members thought about moving next door? Or not? Nobody's thought about it? Dr. Herron, if you could use your microphone, thank you.
I thought it would be a great idea to move in there.
I
said I thought it would be a great idea.
Yes, ma'am. One of the benefits of moving next door is you don't have to worry about turning your mic on.
Then I totally
Which
agree.
I have a problem with, right? So I'm just like, is my mic on?
I think it would be great.
Okay.
And we all went and looked at it last time the meeting.
Yeah.
And all of us got a chance. It's right there, it's close, it's, yeah.
But it's just a little more informal.
Table's plenty big for
Oh,
all
yeah.
of us.
Oh, yeah. And there's plenty of room for public speaking and them to come and present. I would like, Bill, do you have any comments?
No, I'd be good with that. I mean, there's been several boards over the years that have
When we
met
have
in
our
there.
board, we meet in that squared off table, and it seems to function really,
Right.
really well. So
That's right.
it's not an unfamiliar environment.
No, I think it's a fantastic idea.
Dr. McDonald, do you have anything you'd like to share in that regard?
No, sir. I did have another question regarding action we just took a few minutes ago.
Okay, I'll get back to you in just a second. Thank you. Vice Chair Daniel, do you have any sentiments, one way or the other? So I'll tell you what, let's do. I like a motion in a second to move the venue to room 205 beginning July 1, and then that gives my staff, office staff, time to send out a public announcement stating that there's been a change in location to 205.
I'll make that motion
We
to
have a
change
motion.
location.
Second.
And we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. It'll begin July, the first meeting in July. Dr. McDonald, you're now recognized under other business.
Thank you, sir. Just a point of clarification on the vote we just took regarding the contracts. We took one vote. Is that inclusive of all 14 contracts?
Yes,
Okay.
it is. Thank you, and thank you for that clarification. Thank you very much. It was all 14 contracts. Since all 14 contracts, Lynn, are identical, correct? Okay.
Again, it's just a point of clarification for the
Excellent.
record.
Excellent point. Thank you. It takes a village to raise a mayor, Dr. McDonald, and we appreciate your contribution. Any further comments? Seeing no objection, we stand adjourned.